Good morning, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? Well, I just saw something that doesn't cheer me up at all. And I saw something that cheers me up a lot. We'll start with gold and silver, and then we'll get to China. 3,400. There we are, baby. Gold, 3,400. And it's past 10 o'clock. Silver, 38.90. Ready to go to 39. Happy times. Let's see if silver broke 39. It hadn't gotten to over 39. It's 38.90, somewhere in that range. All right, 3,400 gold. Happy times. How smart are we to be in gold? We are very, very smart. Because of what I'm about to tell you is going to make you pee your pants. Then we'll get into baseball. Well, what's going on in China? I'm going to play these out of order. Well, not really. One's 5 days ago, one's 3 hours ago. We start with BRICS to scrap the dollar. Russia gives big update. So there's going gold back, right? But let's look at Chinese. China has totally fucked themselves. China, without a warning, has said, you know what? We're not using dollars anymore. So people trying to go and get the ATM and buy groceries and all this other stuff can't do it. All right, so let's play this one. The rich flee overnight. This was a few days ago. Why is my screen like there? It's better there. All right, so this is rich Chinese flee overnight 5 days ago.
I didn't know what nuts do to cortisol until I saw this. One of the biggest mistakes for women who want to lose weight is eating cortisol.
Don't introduce themselves. One woman, China's richest are fleeing the country overnight. Private jets vanish from hangars. Billionaires are dumping real estate for pennies, and they're not even looking back. Something just happened, something big, and for those who waited too long, escape may no longer be an option. This isn't some prediction. This is happening right now, and here's why it should terrify you. What just triggered this sudden billionaire exodus? Why are luxury towers in Beijing and Shanghai being sold at a loss or not at all? And what do China's richest know that the rest of the world doesn't? To understand what's happening, we need to start with the very first sign, the moment the rich quietly started to run. The first to run. It starts quietly. A Beijing tech billionaire suddenly goes radio silent. No updates, no photos, not even birthday wishes from his usual entourage. In Shanghai, a real estate heiress known for posting luxury handbags and wine-tasting weekends deletes her entire social feed. At first, it just looks like a coincidence, maybe a publicity reset. Maybe they're lying low, but within 48 hours, something feels off. This isn't a PR cleanse, this is a disappearance. By July 6th, private real estate brokers across Vancouver and Singapore are flooded with off-market listings, all from Chinese owners. Properties worth millions are being quietly pushed onto the table, but not through normal listings. They're registered under shell corporations, holding companies, even distant relatives with clean passports. One broker in Singapore says, it felt like they were trying to vanish without a paper trail. And they were, because back home, the exits were closing fast. That same week, a cluster of Gulfstream G650s, the luxury jet of choice for China's elite, quietly lift off from Shenzhen's private terminals. One heads toward Dubai, another lands in Kuala Lumpur. Several more land in Singapore within hours of each other. These weren't planned vacations. These were one-way trips for entire families. Wealth managers, drivers, house staff, all gone. Customs agents start murmuring, the Maybach crowd is gone. But how are they moving this much money so quickly? China still enforces a strict capital control law. Citizens are legally limited to moving only $50,000 per year out of the country. Yet somehow billions are flowing overseas. The trick? Most aren't wiring cash. They're moving themselves. Golden passports from nations like St. Kitts, Dominica, and Vanuatu offer Chinese elites second identities, allowing them to bypass capital limits and travel restrictions entirely. And it's not just flights and passports. A leak from a prominent Hong Kong immigration law firm drops like a bomb on July 8th. The documents show 47 new family trusts formed in Singapore, all in the last 5 days. Many are linked to names long tied to China's economic rise: property moguls, tech founders, hedge fund darlings. The same people who helped build modern China are now the first to jump ship. One name on the list: a former AI startup CEO whose company once received praise from Beijing as a pillar of national innovation. Now gone. But leaving the country was just one part of the escape plan. The fire sale. At first glance, it looks like a buyer's dream. In Shanghai's most prestigious neighborhoods, where apartments once sold for $2 million, prices are slashed to $1.2 million overnight. But there's a catch: nobody's buying. Not because the units are undesirable, but because the silence is deafening. People aren't excited, they're scared. Buyers hesitate, sensing that something deeper is wrong. Prices are falling too fast, too suddenly for comfort. In Beijing's Chaoyang district, the trend turns brutal. Entire floors of luxury high-rises are suddenly listed, not unit by unit, but in bulk. It's as if the owners just want out, and still, no bites. Developers lower prices, agents double their commission offers. Still, silence. In hushed tones, people begin to whisper what nobody wants to say. The rich are dumping the market. For decades, Chinese real estate was the safest place to park wealth. Land ownership was restricted, the yuan wasn't fully convertible, and the stock market was too volatile. So property became a tangible store of value, always rising. Now that illusion is cracking. Rich families are slashing prices, offering bundled deals, anything to liquidate before the collapse goes public. But here's the twist. Ordinary Chinese citizens can't buy even if they wanted to. Mortgage approvals are stalled. Down payment rules are tightening. Banks are freezing in fear. Even the giants are crumbling. What's left of Evergrande, once China's second largest developer, is being sold off in bits and pieces. Country Garden, another titan, is offloading assets for cents on the dollar just to stay afloat. Some fire sales are so desperate, they don't even reach the public. Fake buyers, often shell companies tied to the original owners, are being used to transfer assets internally. It's not about selling to the public anymore. It's about getting assets off the books before regulators swoop in. One real-world example says it all. A penthouse in Shenzhen, once owned by a well-known crypto investor, was listed at 20 million yuan. 6 weeks later, it drops to 12 million yen. Then 9 million yen. No offers, not even a viewing. The seller vanishes. The property still sits empty, a concrete tombstone for what used to be untouchable wealth. By July 9th, panic reaches local governments. In an effort to stabilize the market, several cities moved to temporarily ban new high-end listings. But the move backfires. Instead of calming the public, it confirms what many already fear. The crash is real, and it's already here. But the billionaires, they're long gone. The sell-off wasn't a panic, it was a pre-planned evacuation. But why now? What changed so suddenly in July 2025 that made escape feel urgent? The The final crackdown. July 4th, 2025. The crackdown becomes official. Without warning, the Chinese government launches a fresh wave of financial audits aimed squarely at non-patriotic capital flight. That phrase alone sends a chill through China's upper class. It's vague, loaded, and dangerously flexible. Beijing also introduces sweeping new disclosure laws, forcing anyone with significant overseas assets to report every yuan or face national interest penalties. On the surface, it's framed as a policy to protect economic sovereignty, but to the ultra-wealthy, it sounds more like a threat. And this time, it's personal. The timing is no coincidence. It comes just as more billionaires are starting to slip out, setting up foreign trusts, shifting assets, disappearing into new identities. The government sees the exit, and now it wants to shut the doors before more capital escapes. For those who remember 2021, when Jack Ma vanished from public view, tech IPOs were blocked, and the entire education sector was kneecapped. This feels like phase 2, but worse, because now it's not just about silencing criticism, it's about reclaiming the money. Behind closed doors, wealthy families begin to panic. Whispers of asset seizures spread like wildfire. An internal memo from a regional finance bureau is leaked online. It warns that holdings above 50 million yen will be reviewed for excessive private gain. The phrase excessive is undefined, ambiguous, and that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. A former state banker tells the Financial Times they've started using the term economic enemies of the state. That's new, that's serious. And once a label like that sticks, it doesn't just take your money, it takes your freedom. The fear isn't just about losing wealth, it's about losing the right to leave. One anonymous tech CEO shares a chilling story. My friend tried to fly to London last week, first-class ticket, private driver. He never made it past immigration. They pulled him aside, told him to stay put. No charges, no reason, just stay. The message is clear. If you're still here, you're not going anywhere. And then, Beijing speaks. On July 8th, in a carefully staged national broadcast, the government delivers a vague but pointed message. Wealth must serve the people, not foreign interests. No names are mentioned, no policies announced, just that line. But every billionaire watching knows what it means. This isn't guidance, it's a warning. By the next morning, the signs are everywhere. In Beijing's luxury neighborhoods, entire villas go dark. Imported cars sit untouched in driveways. Security guards are nowhere to be found. Not because the owners are on vacation, but because they fled. And what's left behind isn't poverty, it's abandonment. Ghost mansions owned by people too wealthy to stay, and now too smart to return. And for those who couldn't get out, the nightmare is just beginning. Trapped inside. July 9th, 2025. The private jets are gone. The escape routes are vanishing. And now, for the ultra-wealthy still inside China, the walls are closing in. Thousands of high net worth individuals are now under what insiders call informal monitoring. No official charges, no court orders, just silent red flags at the airport and sudden phone calls that end in veiled warnings. Their freedom to move, and more importantly, their freedom to exit, has quietly been revoked. Bank accounts are now targets. Anyone flagged for excessive overseas exposure is being watched. Foreign accounts tied to offshore trusts? Frozen. Domestic accounts? Marked for abnormal transaction reviews. Local banks are instructed to report any transfer over 100,000 yen. That's barely $13,000. What used to be casual wire transfers are now possible and grounds for investigation. Behind closed doors, wealthy families whisper, "We're prisoners with credit cards." Some turn to crypto, hoping to escape under the radar, but the government anticipated that move. In the past week alone, China's cybersecurity teams have shut down hundreds of VPN nodes, flagged crypto wallet traffic, and traced IP addresses back to individuals trying to move Ethereum, USDT, even Bitcoin. It's not just about freezing the money, it's about tracking intent. And if their intent
So, what's going on? They're broke, China. They've inflated their money to zero. Sound familiar? Is it coming to a theater near you? Right here? Absolutely. Bitcoins. Oh, look, my Bitcoin's worth 100,000. You'll never get it. You'll never get it. They're not going to let it. I mean, this is China. What do you think Trump's doing, or the Scott Simpson? I'll talk about, can it work though? basically you're bankrupting China. But we'll wait till the second video. So the only freedom is gold because nobody knows you have it. Now, how are we going to use it? This is my what I'm thinking to rescue us, because the next video I'm going to show you is the money's gone. You can't go to the bank. You can't use money. So you can only use digital. So I guess it's kind of like CBDCs, or it's stablecoin, or whatever the fuck they want to call it. I don't know how an economy can work without a medium of exchange. This I don't know. So you're in China, you can't even get out. Even the rich, they can't. They're selling their stuff for pennies on the dollar. They want to go to London or wherever. They can't. I guess the only thing you can do is swim to Singapore or somewhere, or get a little boat and kind of go if you can make it. This sounds like like Devil's Island or something. You can't leave, but you can't use money. How the fuck are you supposed to eat? This is a big problem. Let's finish this up, and then I'm going to get to the one where they don't have money.
It's like an escape. Expect a knock on the door, not from police, from plainclothes agents who don't introduce themselves. One woman, desperate to preserve her family's wealth, tries something bolder. She attempts to convert $4 million worth of assets into raw diamonds, hoping to smuggle them out disguised as jewelry. But before she reaches the departure gate, customs officers seize the entire haul. No charges, no refund. Just a form that reads, "Suspicious asset concealment." In a place where laws are flexible and motives are assumed, wealth becomes dangerous to carry. Whisper networks are spreading faster than ever. People are trading escape strategies like contraband. Don't fly direct, don't move large chunks of cash, don't post anything, don't tell anyone. And even then, it might not be enough. In Chengdu, a car dealership CEO attempts a private sale of 12 company-owned condos. 3 days later, he disappears. No arrest record, no official statement.
Ladies, listen up. The video showing the pink salt trick that melts belly fat while you sleep has already passed 21.
3 days later, he disappears. No arrest record, no official statement. Just gone. Outside the borders, the panic is visible. Foreign embassies quietly report a spike in emergency visa applications from Chinese nationals worth over $10 million. They're not asking about travel plans. They're begging for exit options. One Canadian consulate worker puts it bluntly. These aren't people planning vacations, they're running. And they're not running from poverty. They're running from a system that once protected them, but now sees them as a threat. But the biggest clue that this is the end of an era? It's not just who's leaving, it's where they're going. The new safe havens. It's July 2025, and while China's wealth is vanishing at home, it's exploding abroad. Singapore's luxury housing market hits a new record, the highest price per square foot in its history. Real estate firms there aren't just busy, they're overwhelmed. Clients are showing up with full payment, demanding to close within 48 hours, and most of them, Mandarin speaking, newly arrived, and holding Caribbean passports. They're not visiting, they're relocating. In Canada, immigration lawyers can barely keep up. One major Toronto firm reports a 300% spike in inquiries from Chinese nationals, almost all of them mentioning one phrase, urgent relocation. The requests aren't just about visas, they're about permanent escape plans, new identities, private education, foreign healthcare, clean tax shelters.
So that part was edited out where they're going, but now we can figure it out. Canada, a lot of Chinese there. Singapore, Pat can tell us about that. Dubai, another place that'll take anybody. I'm not sure the other two, but we better pencil that in also, because we're going to need to leave if they take the dollar away.
Lawyers say
Now, why are they doing this? Because China's broke. They've inflated. They have their money's worthless, but they have all these rich people who have money. So what they're doing is they're going after the rich people with money because they fucked up and inflated their money to zero. Now, I don't know what good it's going to do because the money's worthless. And this is what you got to realize. The US dollar is worthless. The euro, This is what I'm telling you. This is all worthless. So even if the Chinese renminbi, which is worthless, as every currency is worthless, it doesn't matter if you go after the rich. Okay, so you get their money. It's still worthless. It doesn't make the money worth more. This is what these idiots do not understand. Once you fuck the money up, the money's gone. It doesn't, oh, here's a million, zero. Warren Buffett could have $2 billion. It's worthless. So will the government go after Warren Buffett? Well, they could, but it doesn't matter. It's worthless. That's why we own gold and silver, because it can never be worthless. It's usually easy. We can use it for bribes to get out of the country, to go to other countries, whatever we need to do. That's our freedom. I didn't think it would come to this, and especially this quickly.
The trend isn't from students or middle-class investors. It's the ultra-rich, the ones who never had to worry only up until now, the ones who used to fund Beijing's rise, now fleeing from its grip. And it's not just the West. In Dubai, the city's expanding Chinese business district registers 5 new campuses in just 3 days. These aren't shell companies. They're full-service operations with staff, advisors, and multi-generational wealth plans. Dubai offers what they need: discretion, tax incentives, and no political lectures. And as one banker there puts it, they're not asking how to invest, they're asking how to disappear. But these aren't long-planned migrations, they're overnight transfers. A private school in Singapore reports dozens of sudden enrollments from Chinese students, all paid in full in cash. Swiss private banks, long known for secrecy, are now quietly turning people away. Internal sources say they're overloaded with Chinese onboarding requests. Even countries built for wealth migration are reaching capacity. And then comes the kind of quote you never forget. A Vancouver real estate agent tells a local paper, they're showing up with duffel bags of cash. No negotiation. They don't ask about schools, neighborhoods, anything. They just want out. She pauses, then adds, it's like they're escaping a burning building. And that may not be far from the truth, because in a leaked memo dated July 9th, a Beijing economist writes a stark warning to party leadership. The top 1% have fled. What remains is a broken system with no lifeboats. And now, what's left inside China is a hollowed-out economy, one where the factories still run, the buildings still stand, but the confidence is gone. The billionaires who once poured billions into Shanghai's skyline, who backed Beijing's tech dreams and built wealth empires from scratch, have vanished. What they saw coming, others are only now beginning to feel: frozen accounts, falling property values, and a government that's willing to sacrifice loyalty in the name of control. This isn't just a crisis of money, it's a crisis of trust. And the final memo says it all. The top 1% have fled. What remains is a broken system with no lifeboats. No one reads that.
I love how they use my lifeboat analogy. All right, now it gets worse. No cash, no warning, digital or nothing.
Never pay for your internet again. Discover the free Wi-Fi router built with the same technology.
China's biggest cities are now cashless, not by choice, but by force. ATMs have gone dark, vaults are being emptied, and overnight, the digital yuan is the only currency allowed.
This is
What used to
today.
be called your money no longer belongs to you. Because right now, China isn't going digital. It's seizing control. What triggered Beijing to pull the plug on cash so suddenly and so ruthlessly? How are ordinary citizens surviving when their life savings are frozen overnight? And what does this mean for the future of money, not just in China, but everywhere? Let's start with what happened when people in China woke up and realized their cash had been quietly taken away. The morning ATMs went silent. It starts quietly. At exactly 4 a.m., Beijing time, the first armored vans roll into cities across China. They move in silence. No sirens, no announcements, just headlights cutting through empty streets and a fleet of government vehicles pulling up to local branches of ICBC, Bank of China, and China Construction Bank. Inside those banks, night shift workers are already under instruction. They have received sealed documents hours earlier, marked with our red characters. Class A, Financial Security Directive. The command is simple: disable all ATM access by 6 a.m. No exceptions, no delays, and that's exactly what happens. By the time the sun rises over Hangzhou, Nanjing, Chongqing, and parts of Shenzhen, The familiar green lights on ATM screens across the city have gone dark. People start their day as usual. Commuters stop to withdraw cash before work. Small business owners line up to grab change for the day's sales. Elderly citizens step up to machines to collect their pension money. But none of them succeed. Instead, the machines display a single jarring message. This service is no longer supported. Please use ECMY. No explanation, no redirect. Just a QR code, a look in silence. Some people think it's a technical issue, a server problem. Others assume it's a power glitch. They wait, they refresh, they try again. Nothing. Then they start walking to other branches, to different kiosks, to underground ATMs still tucked into corner shops. Same message, same shutdown. By 7:15 a.m., panic begins to spread. Phone lines to local banks are jammed. WeChat groups fill with screenshots. Voice notes bounce around. Has your ATM stopped working? They're saying it's not a malfunction. I just tried 3 different banks, all offline. By 8 a.m., bank entrances across Chengdu and Xi'an are packed with people demanding answers. One man in Chengdu, a delivery driver named Liu Wen, captures a video outside a downtown branch. You can hear shouting in the background. They told us the machine is broken, he says, but it's not. They just shut it down, every single one. In the video, more than 40 people wait outside, clutching bank cards, holding phones, trying to refresh frozen apps. Some are workers, some are retirees. One woman starts crying. She was supposed to withdraw rent money for her landlord, in cash, by noon. The video goes viral almost immediately. It's reposted on Douyin, then Twitter, then Telegram. The hashtag #, where is my cash, begins trending. Not just in China, globally. By noon, it's already gone, scrubbed, vanished from Chinese social media. Weibo users trying to search for it see a familiar phrase: this topic is temporarily unavailable due to relevant laws and regulations. In just a few hours, tens of millions of people across China realize something chilling. This isn't a system error. It's not maintenance. It's not fraud prevention. It's deliberate. Across the country, an entire infrastructure of cash distribution, hundreds of thousands of machines, terminals, back-end servers, cash dispensers, and even armored cash trucks has been switched off like a light, with no warning, no backup, no timeline for return. Small store owners in Zhejiang report losing early morning customers who only had physical currency. A grandmother in Wuhan can't pay her neighborhood vegetable vendor. She offers a 50 yuan note, but the stall owner shakes his head. They came last night, told us not to accept bills. It's ECNY now, or nothing. Overnight, China's relationship with money has changed, not through public policy, not through market trends, but through the push of a button. And most chilling part, nobody asked for this. No vote, no televised address, not even a press release, just silence and a command. Because this isn't a technical failure, it's a blackout, and it's only phase 1. But turning off the machines is just the surface. What happens next hits even deeper. Vaults raided, bills seized. The ATM shutdowns were just the opening move. What comes next is faster, bolder, and more invasive than anyone expected. As citizens scramble to find working cash machines, the Chinese government quietly activates phase 2, physical cash seizure, not from the streets, but from the source. Across Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Nanjing, unmarked vehicles arrive outside major bank branches. Inside, executives receive sealed documents stamped with red ink. The heading reads, Operation UN Horizon. Below it, a direct order from the Central Financial Commission. Effective immediately, all vault-held physical currency is to be transferred to designated ECNY processing centers. Full compliance required. Deviation constitutes obstruction of national financial security. In simpler terms, empty your vaults. Now by 10:30 a.m., armored cash trucks begin arriving at select bank branches, not to deliver cash, but to collect it.
These shoes do something really unusual, which you've probably never seen before. Watch what happens.
30
We don't
a.m.,
care.
armored cash trucks begin arriving at select bank branches, not to deliver cash, but to collect it. These aren't the usual routes. These trucks are accompanied by armed officers from the People's Armed Police Force, not regular bank guards. Employees watch in silence as pallets of yuan notes, stacks of hundreds, thousands, sometimes millions, are loaded into vans, sealed with biometric tags, and driven off under military escort. No receipts, no documentation, no client consent. A junior bank manager in Suzhou, clearly shaken, leaks a voice memo to a friend abroad. It gets posted anonymously. We were told not to inform customers until the removal was complete. One woman started crying. She thought her wedding savings were being stolen, but we couldn't stop it. They said it was above us. In some cases, personal safe deposit boxes are opened. Not all, but enough to start rumors. Especially in Guangzhou, where several families with multi-generational savings stored in vaults report being contacted by officials. They're told their holdings will be evaluated for digital transition. No details provided. Even pawn shops, gold brokers, and cash-heavy businesses get the knock. In Xi'an, a jade merchant named Chen Guoliang is ordered to turn over 320,000 yuan in paper currency from his office safe. He resists at first. Then they show him a government decree, signed, sealed, official. He has no choice. He hands it over. They scan it, record it, and hand him a QR code on a plain white sheet. They said the money will come back digitally, Chen recalls later. I haven't seen it. The code says processing, that's it. He can't pay his vendors, can't make payroll. One of his shop assistants has to use her personal Alipay account just to buy lunch. Back in Fuzhou, a family-owned funeral service is visited mid-morning. Their cash drawer, used for walk-in clients, is removed entirely. The father of the family says, "We deal with elderly clients, many only paying cash. What do I do? Refuse the burial over a QR code?" No answer, just a clipboard and a warning. Physical currency is no longer sovereign. By mid-afternoon, videos surface of vault doors being sealed with white tape, marked with government insignia. Some bank workers stare in disbelief. Others simply look exhausted and resigned.
So what's happening is China thinks they're running out of money. They've inflated their money to shit. It's worthless. But for some reason, the Keynesians think, oh, well, we can only have so much money. And therefore, it's out. We got to take the money from the people. That's why they went after the rich. That's why I showed you that tape first. That was 5 days ago. This is 2 hours ago. Wow. I'll just say this is today. So they think they got to bring the money back. I don't know where they're getting that from. You've already printed the money. The money's gone. Giving them back the €5 isn't gonna do anything. So I don't really know what the fuck is going on, that they think they need the money back, and then they want to go digital. Well, it seems like they haven't planned it. The vendors aren't ready to take it. The vendors are dealing in cash. The people aren't ready. They don't have any digital. So they're getting this option on their phone. Oh, you want your money switched to digital, where they're being tracked. The billionaires knew this, so they were running out before this went on. So they obviously, like here, the rich, the elitists know what's going to happen before. God, I can't. If you ever get a stain on your shirt, use cold water and dishwashing and dish soap. Let it soak for 20 minutes, then wash it. And if it's castor oil, which I sometimes put on my head and it leaks on my shirt, add baking soda and leave it for 20 minutes and then wash it. That should get the castor oil out. Anyway, this is what's happening. They've inflated their money. It's worthless. They're going after Bitcoin. They're not going after gold. They're going after the gold brokers. What would we do? So let's say this is happening here, which it will soon, I imagine. We would start using silver. We would go to Kroger's and give them, well, if Kroger's is even open. Not sure how Kroger's, I guess they'll only take digital, but who has digital? Is stablecoin gonna do it? Are they gonna force us to use stablecoin, and that's how? Well, you want to buy groceries, stablecoin. And that's why it's like saying it's 1-to-1. So if steak's $20, it's 20 stablecoin. Does that make sense? No. but they want us to keep the dollar equivalent on hand to back the stable coin. But the stable coin's not good either. If it's just using US dollar, the US dollar is gone. Do they go after our money? Well, they're going to go after Warren Buffett's money and Bill Gates's money. So when you see them running to Dubai, we need to run to Dubai. So what'll happen is there'll be a few countries that will accept the cash or the credit cards or whatever, and that's where we need to go. Maybe it's Russia, maybe it's BRICS countries, although China's a BRICS country. But China's broke, and that's a fact when you can see it. And they're going after their people's money, which is not going to help them because it's still inflated. You still printed the money, so you can hold on to it, but it still has no value. So the game's up there. And as people tried to fled, people can't get money, they can't eat. They're going to have to go digital, and they're fucked because let's go a little bit further in. It says, oh, this guy wanted to buy meat. And they said, no, you've reached your meat allowance. At that point, the economy's dead. Everybody there is fucked. All right, let's get to that point.
A few still try to reassure customers. It's temporary, they say. The money will be converted soon. But no one really knows, because as far as the state is concerned, cash is no longer legal tender. It's no longer a medium of exchange or a store of value. It's not even yours anymore. It's state property pending digital verification. And the only thing scarier than watching your money vanish is being told it's still there, you just don't control it anymore. But even those who cooperate aren't spared, because the next step...
Most people are too lazy to do this, but it saves homeowners a fortune.
But even those who cooperate aren't spared, because the next step makes the digital yuan inescapable. Digital yuan or nothing. By 3 p.m., another wave hits. This time, it's not the banks, it's the apps. Across China, millions of smartphones buzz simultaneously. Notifications flood in from the country's largest financial platforms, ICBC, Bank of China, Alipay, and WeChat Pay. But these aren't security alerts or policy updates. These are system changes, forced, silent, absolute. When users open their apps, they don't see their usual dashboards, no balance summaries, no transaction history. Instead, they see a new screen, bold, unfamiliar, and unskippable. At the top, welcome to ECNY. Below it, a new interface showing a digital yuan wallet marked as active. There's no cancel, no opt-out, just 2 buttons, continue, or verify identity. The shift is so seamless, it's almost surreal. It feels less like an update and more like someone flipped a switch. Then the real panic begins. Users try to check their savings accounts only to see a grayed out message. Conversion pending, funds temporarily unavailable. Others try to make QR payments as stores like they do every day, but the screen freezes. A small red banner appears. Please activate your digital yuan wallet to continue. Bank transfers fail. Online payments crash. ATM withdrawals already blocked now have no fallback. Your entire financial life frozen until you agree. One university student in Wuhan posts on a Telegram channel. My scholarship money came in today, but it's locked. The app says I need to accept the digital yuan first. What if I say no? She finds out fast. She tries to pay rent, but it fails. She buys lunch, and it fails. She books a train ticket, blocked. Even her mobile data recharge has declined. She walks to a corner store and offers to pay in cash. The clerk points to a new sticker on the window. ECNY only, cash disabled. Her phone still shows a healthy balance, thousands of yuan, technically hers, but completely inaccessible, and it's not just her. A delivery driver in Chongqing is unable to receive payment for his shift. The app says his employer has switched to ECNY payroll only. A retired factory worker in Tianjin reports that his monthly pension deposit appears in his app, but he can't move it or spend it without linking it to the digital yuan interface. The screen reads, to receive this payment, please authorize ECNY access. There's no fraud, no court order, no due process, just a locked screen and a condition. Give us control alerts or lose access. Some try calling support lines. They're met with recorded messages. Your account is currently in transition. Thank you for upgrading to a secure, modern payment experience. Others head to physical banks. only to be told the same thing. We can't help you unless your ECNY wallet is active. And those who resist, they're simply left behind. This isn't a rollout, it's a takeover. There's no grace period, no warnings, no room for negotiation. Your old money is still there, but it's behind glass. You can see it, but you can't touch it. Not until you surrender control. Not until you say yes. And once you do, that's when the real consequences start. Control by code. Now the digital yuan isn't just the dominant currency. It's the only currency. And within hours of activation, its real purpose begins to show. Because this isn't just a digital version of cash. It's programmable money, and those programs are now running in real time. In Guangzhou, multiple users started reporting strange messages in their banking apps. One man tries to buy a plane ticket twice for a quick round trip to Beijing. His wallet freezes. Suspicious travel pattern detected. Your ECNY wallet has been temporarily suspended for 72 hours. Just like that, he's grounded. No explanation, no appeal. Another woman in Hangzhou sends 5,000 yuan to her younger brother, who lives in a different province. The moment the transaction goes through, her screen flashes red. High-value transfers to unverified recipients may result in penalties. She doesn't know what the penalty is. She doesn't want to find out, so she deletes the app and switches off her phone, knowing full well that neither step will make a difference. In Foshan, shoppers at a grocery store reach the checkout line and scan their phones, only to watch their payments fail, one by one. The reason? Their monthly meat quota is already used up. Please adjust your purchase. You have exceeded the government recommended dietary limit. Dietary limit, it's not a joke. The digital yuan has category controls coded directly into its functionality. If the system flags your spending as too high, too fast, or too off pattern, it simply stops your money from working. And now, new restrictions begin activating, one by one. New digital yuan controls, now live expiration dates on money. Some funds now have a 30-day window before they disappear. A man in Chengdu watches his Spring Festival bonus vanish overnight because he waited too long to spend it. Geofencing. Your wallet only works inside the assigned districts. Try to use your funds outside your city or even in a restricted zone, and the transaction is blocked. A factory worker from Dongguan visits his hometown and finds he can't even buy a train ticket back. Daily spending caps.
I didn't know what avocados do to cortisol until I saw this. One of the biggest mistakes for women who want to lose weight is eating.
A factory worker from Dongguan visits his hometown and finds he can't even buy a train ticket back. Daily spending caps. Want to buy a laptop, a fridge, anything above 2,000 yuan? Your wallet pauses and says, spending limit exceeded. Try again tomorrow. Category restrictions. Certain items like alcohol for foreign luxury goods, online games, and unapproved digital content are now coded as non-eligible. You can try to buy them, but your money won't go through. This isn't a banking glitch, it's a feature. The digital yuan is designed to decide in real time what you can spend, where you can go, and how much freedom you're allowed. A middle-class couple in Shenzhen tries to plan a weekend trip. Their combined purchases for train tickets, hotel bookings, and out-of-city expenses hit the system's travel control limit. Payments fail, so they stay home. Another man, a small clothing vendor in Changsha, is flagged for selling non-domestic goods. His wallet is suspended for re-evaluation. He's told to report to a local financial bureau for an interview. He never gets the money back. The digital yuan isn't just digital cash. It's a remote-controlled leash, a programmable chain that decides how long your money lasts, what it's allowed to do, and whether you're trusted enough to use it. And the scariest part? The rules aren't published, the algorithms aren't explained, the punishments aren't predictable. You just know when your money stops working. But while ordinary people scramble to adapt, Beijing says, nothing. The silence from Beijing, the panic below. All across China, people are demanding answers. Banks have been emptied, ATMs are frozen, wallets are locked, and cash, real, physical money, has become useless. You'd think the government would explain. You'd expect a statement from Beijing, a press briefing, a televised announcement, but instead, there's silence. State-run media barely mentions the shift. No coverage on CCTV, no debate on Xinhua, just a single line buried on page 7 of the People's Daily. The nation continues its advancement into intelligent finance. That's it. No mention of the chaos, no mention of citizens locked out of their savings, no explanation for why it had to happen overnight. Meanwhile, the streets are telling a very different story. In rural provinces, far from the city centers, the situation is turning grim. In Jiangxi, elderly residents gather outside a village co-op, waving cash bills they've saved for decades. They're told it's no longer accepted. They don't own smartphones. They can't download wallets. They can't buy food. In Anhui province, a family-run bakery hangs a handwritten sign on its storefront. Cash only. Please help us. We don't have ECNY. The next day, local officials arrive. They issue a 2,000 yuan fine for refusing to comply with national financial standards. The bakery shuts down. They post one last message on WeChat. We just wanted to make bread, that's all. Inside the hospitals is no better. A doctor in Hunan province writes in a now deleted blog post, "My hospital can't process insurance refunds for seniors. They don't have e-wallets. They're just stuck." One man said, "I served this country for 40 years. Now I can't pay for medicine." She ends her post with one line, "Is this what progress looks like?" And beneath the surface, a new form of rebellion begins to grow. People who once trusted the system start looking for alternatives. Underground crypto vendors report a 400% surge in requests for Bitcoin and USDT. Foreign remittance apps, long monitored but tolerated, begin to crash from overuse. Some Chinese users even dust off old hardware wallets and offline keys they never thought they'd use again. In the app stores, VPN downloads skyrocket. Everyone's trying to get outside the wall, just long enough to find a way to protect what's left of their wealth. But within hours, VPNs disappear from app listings. Websites are blocked, servers go dead. Because this isn't just a war on cash, it's a war on choice. And it's not about technology, it's about control. People aren't just losing money, they're losing trust. They're watching the ground shift beneath them, with no warning, no safety net, and no voice. And the people in power? They're not answering, because they don't have to. In China, silence isn't an absence of communication. It's a tactic, a signal that everything is going exactly as planned. And it might not stop here, because the real question is why China is doing this now. What Beijing may be preparing for, beneath the silence, is a storm, because this isn't just about streamlining payments, or embracing futuristic currency, or nudging people into digital convenience. This is preparation. According to insiders close to the Central Financial Commission, what we're witnessing may not be a reform at all. It's an emergency protocol, a controlled detonation triggered not to modernize the system, but to shield it. And when you zoom out, the signs are always there. Over the past few months, several regional banks in provinces like Henan and Guangxi have reported unusual liquidity shortfalls. Quiet closures, frozen accounts, technical upgrades that never reverse. Some bank managers stopped showing up to work altogether. Meanwhile, foreign debt pressure is mounting. After new rounds of US and EU sanctions, China's ability to access dollar reserves is weakening by the week. The yuan is under attack, imports are tightening, and global investors are pulling out faster than they're coming in. In that kind of climate, paper cash becomes a liability. It can't be tracked, it can't be controlled, it can leak, it can flee. But a programmable currency, with expiration dates, spending limits, and switch-off capabilities, that's airtight. It doesn't just stabilize the system, it locks it down. Insiders now believe the ECNY rollout isn't a standalone modernization. It's part of a larger firewall strategy designed to preempt total collapse. If a financial crisis hit, and the yuan begins to fall, China will already be in complete control of the money supply. No capital flight, no mass withdrawals, no sudden inflationary run, just a button and silence. And they've seen it before, abroad. In 2022, Lebanon's banks froze accounts during its collapse. Ordinary citizens couldn't withdraw their life savings. In 2016, India demonetized 86% of its physical currency overnight, sending tens of millions into chaos. Even Nigeria attempted a forced shift to digital in 2023, only to reverse course after violent protests. But China's move? Far more sweeping, far more permanent. There's no backpedal clause, no opt-out, no roadmap to return, because this isn't just a financial shift, it's a firewall, a ring of code wrapped around the second largest economy on Earth, activated not in response to collapse, but in anticipation of it. In the name of stability, China is building a cage and locking its money inside, not later, not next year, now, and for the rest of the world watching. By the time we realize what's happened, Beijing may have already rewritten the rules of money. So what looks like innovation is really insulation. A firewall dressed up as progress. In just 24 hours, China didn't just change how people pay, it changed what it means to own money. When your currency can expire, freeze, or be denied based on your behavior, what you hold in your hand isn't wealth, and it's permission. And if this can happen overnight, in the world's second largest economy, it's only a matter of time before someone else decides your cash isn't yours either.
Well, what they've just done is blown themselves up because that doesn't work. You have to have the economy has to be buyers and sellers. Austrian economics, supply and demand, says law. You have to have somebody buy something from somebody else in the public, in the private sector. You're telling them they can't get more meat, they can't fly, they can't do this. They can, as soon as you start putting things in, you're not firewalling yourselves. I don't know what this person's talking about as far as that. They're preparing for the collapse. The collapse is already there. You can't prepare for the collapse. The yuan is worthless. It's still going to be worthless. So if people won't make a bank run, is this what they're worried about? Bank runs? So they just get rid of the dollar, where they hold the dollar so there's no bank run? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The bank runs because the government print the money to death. That's what the government's doing. This is not good. This cannot work. I don't know if it'll come here. Possibility, but we'll use stable coins. That's a much better idea. Control through that. The control part is very bothersome. The biggest thing with Austrian economics is freedom. You have the freedom to go where you want, to buy what you want. There's no limits. If I want to buy a steak, I'm buying a steak. Nobody can say, well, no, you've reached your meat limit. You can, or you can't shop in another city or another state. That's not economics. That's just kind of, so you want to be a communist, huh? I talk to people at the club and I'm a socialist. Okay, so this is what you want. You want to be shut down with no warning and your money's worthless. How the hell do they pay for food there? Or do they have to switch to this digital stuff to allow them to eat? Probably is what they're doing. They're forcing them to do it because they know nobody would do it. Anyway, very, very troublesome. And then how do we work our gold and silver? Because if there's no money, how do we sell the gold or trade the silver? This is, I really have to do some thinking. Hi, Nikki. Good morning. Gold hits 3,400. Yep. Hopefully 30 is the new floor and it bounces between 34, 35. It had been stuck between 33, 34 in May, June, and half July, maybe 4,000 by holidays. Well, if we blow up COMEX, it'll be 5,000 by next month. The Basel III should be taking care of that, where you have to pay up the physical. Shit like this happening in China will speed it up also. So I don't know if this is China only. I don't, if they do it other countries, I mean, you have to have money. You have to have a medium of exchange. You can't not have money. You cannot, people have to be free and allowed to buy what they want and to travel where they want. This whole, they can't travel and they're being held and they're stealing the money. That's why I showed you the first video first. Well, Nikki, I as long as it's still option city, when it gets to a point, they start shorting it, because that's the game, is when it goes high, they then short it back down. And then when it goes down enough, then they come up. Now, this is unusual. This is breaking loose. So what we need is we need Basel III to kick in, which says you have to pay with physical, which will keep people from shorting it. And there's less and less players to short it. So we should get a 3,500. We should get a 4,000 by the end of September. I don't think it'll take that long. It shouldn't move that slowly. This is extremely slow movement. This is a breakout, shows something. Let's see where what's happening. Yeah, silver 38.90 and gold 33.98. So gold had a nice jump up, but it could just as easily jump back down later or tomorrow. We need to get, even if we were at 3,500 and then it gets pulled down. So if the penalty is you short it, you have to deliver the gold. They don't have it. And there's much more gold buying. So in the real world, physical gold is much, much higher because people are buying it, central banks and everybody else, they're buying it, but then they're not, it doesn't show up in the price because if me and you go buy 1,000 tons of gold, it doesn't move the price. The price is only moved by options. This is the problem. This is why the gold's way too cheap, and so is silver. It's not done by the actual market. So if we go to the grocery store and we all want to buy Canadian Club and they sell out, they're going to raise the price. Or if we go, if everybody runs and buys Wendy's, they're going to raise the price. But when nobody goes and nobody buys McDonald's because we don't even know if it's real food or not, then they lower the price because then sales are gone. So they always have to make profit and sell their profit. So that's the argument I've had is gold and silver is not physical priced. It's paper priced by options. It's bullshit. I was looking at what is a future, and it's just a game. It's just options. Like they're trying to say you can buy gold in the future at this price. It's such bullshit because it's all controlled by the options, by the paper. But that's not the price. That's not how you develop a price. That's based on physical demand in a physical market. And why we use paper to value physical gold is beyond me. But it's good to see it at 3,400, and silver's really close to 39, 38.90. And it's up big. It's up 70 cents, but we've seen this act before. I thought we needed to break 37, which we did, and then I thought we needed to break 38, and then here comes 50. And there's still, it's really Citibank and JP Morgan who fucked up, and they shorted it back at 5, and they're trying to get out of it. Well, fellas, you just got to sell it. You can't push. You don't have enough paper options to get out of it because there's too much buying in bricks to keep the price down, right? If the price goes a little bit, they buy it. They go, oh, it's cheap. This is the only place you see this price. This 3,400 gold is not real. It's not at the mines. It's not if you are China and you want to buy it. That's not at all. That's the other thing with China is I don't understand. They're doing all this. They got 70,000 tons of gold. The people have gold in accounts. So I'm really curious. They've got all this gold, but they're still worried about the yuan. Just take your gold out, fellas. Or they're waiting for the U.S. to collapse, and then they'll do it. I don't know, but I don't know why they're doing this to their citizens. But you're fucked. So I guess they're running to Dubai and they're running to Canada and I guess Singapore. So we might need escape hatches also. And we've got to see it coming and get the hell out, right? So we've got to figure out if this starts happening. Now, notice it just happened this morning. That was it. They went to bed. Everything's fine. They wake up. They can't use their ATMs. They can't get money. That's a problem that there's no warning. I guess the only warning is the billionaires flew out 5 days ago. And this is why I ask you to think fifth dimensionally. Think why? Why are the billionaires fleeing? Why would they flee? They live here. They're billionaires. They got everything. It just shows you think about things, what's happening. So if we're in China now, can our gold and silver save us? That's a scary thought that we have the gold, but the Bitcoin ain't. Well, I guess what's happening, this is what'll happen. This is what's always happened. It happened in Nazi Germany. They'll end up with the black market. So we'll find somebody who has the supply. We need food, or we want chicken or something, and we'll find somebody selling it, and we'll say, "Hey, you take silver," and we'll go, "Yeah, I'm the black market." And so they'll come out actually with a new currency, a black market currency. This is what they did in Nazi Germany. They came out, the Gestapo was a big part of the black market, and people would be able to buy things that the Nazis wouldn't allow them to buy, or use money the Nazis wouldn't allow them to use. And that's, I think, what'll happen, because you'll still need an economy. There's vendors with food, and there's people who need food. So what are they supposed to just go on this digital? And how do I get digital? If I'm working at a manufacturer, I'm working at a GM. Am I still going to work there? And how are they going to pay me in digital? And then I can eat and buy clothes with the digital money, because it looks like I'm forced to. I have to have the QR code, and I have to put it on my phone and accept it, or else my money's all frozen. Hence why I have nothing in the bank and nothing in the stocks. Those are the first two places they're going to fuck you. But because China doesn't have a real stock market, they're going to the banks and they're closing out your accounts and the ATMs. Well, I don't have that. Now, I do have money in the safe, but finding a vendor who will take the money is going to be interesting, or the gold and silver. So what are we going to do? So I got to think about this and come to a problem solve it. But can it happen here? There's too many people. You're going to kill the economy. Can we all go to this digital? Now, can we all go to this stable coin? We all have stable coins. Is that going to be the answer? Are we going to stable coin? I don't know. Again, let's see what happens as things happen. All right. There's a few other videos I wanted to show you. Putin dollar shock for Trump with BRICS.
What happens to your skin when you soak in baking soda?
Who gives a fuck?
What happens?
This might be one that doesn't. BRICS replacing US dollar after dual dollar shocks to US, Russia's big claim. BRICS nations pivoting towards payments and national. I hate when they don't talk on these. BRICS isn't inventing a new global. They will come out with the BRICS gold-backed currency. No desire to replace this, says Russian deputy foreign minister. No, we're not going to watch this. I hate when they can't fucking talk. But all BRICS is going to come out with the unit gold-back, and they're for trade amongst them. They didn't replace the dollar. The dollar is forcing them to do this, but that's where they're at. All right, Egon on confiscation.
We experienced the 70s. There's no reason for interest rates not to go up to those levels with the massive demand there is now for money, especially from Western governments. But coming back to gold and potential confiscation, I don't see the risk of that. I mean, it was very different in the early 30s when gold was backing the dollar. Now gold isn't backing anything. And, gold, as today, it's 0.5% of world financial assets. Now, in this massive revaluation of gold, might go to 5% or 7% or even 10%. But it's still only 10% of global financial assets. And it would be better to confiscate property or bank deposits or any other major area where I actually get a lot more money. What I think was going to happen is that they will force investors through the banks, the people who have money in the banks or assets in the banks, they will be forced to buy US treasuries up to a certain amount of their assets, and probably also 100-year treasuries at very nominal interest rates. They're not going to get market interest rates either.
Well, I think there's a big shock coming.
There was another Egon.
It's easy to talk about the big picture, but at the same time, we are here to advise and help individual investors how to protect themselves here. And, one of the things that is very clear that is coming is capital controls. Most European countries are already introducing it or have introduced it. Spain now, the latest, that is 3,000 euros maximum to take out. And even that, they have to report, etc., etc. And it's going to be less and less. That amount's going to come down. It's the same in Italy, same in many countries. They will basically try to stop people using real money or taking money out. And the US hasn't done it yet in any major way, but I think that's the next thing that's going to happen, because once you get this crisis that you were talking about in the banking sector, they have to stop outflow of capital.
When you think of Ford cars, you probably first.
So this is why we keep our money in the safe. Stick with me. I'll help you. This is all fucked. This is all the inflation, and they're running out of money, and they can't keep printing it because they realize that's the cause of the inflation, but it's already out there. It doesn't matter. So you keep your money in your safe or in a thing. You do not keep it in a safety deposit box, please. They will take that. As they said in the Chinese video, they were taking out safety deposit boxes. They weren't. Your money's not safe in a bank in a safety deposit box. Don't ever think that. You can put it at like a U-Haul storage bin or one of these storage facilities where they give you a lock and a key and you can put stuff in it. That would be the only place. You must get out of stocks because they will take your money. In the bank, they're going to put you in bonds. So maybe we won't get the digital like China. Now, China's not in the West, it's in the East. So China thinks differently. You want to be a communist, go to China. See how well you like it, and see why everybody's moving out of China to either Canada or Dubai or London or some of these cities. Puerto Rico, probably a good place. People will want money, so they will take it. So countries will be, you just have to move. Like if you're in China, you got to move to Singapore, right? Or Hong Kong or Dubai. You can't stay in China. But that's been like that for a while. They are bankrupt. So I don't understand all these deals where they're going, oh, well, China's got, they just signed this deal with Canada for food and they're not taking our meat. They're still fucking broke. They've inflated their money, so they're not letting their people get to their money because they're going to run out. Dudes, you don't understand. It isn't worth anything. It's called inflation. When you fucking print your money to death, the money's worthless. That's what you've done. And not you, but every fucking country in the world has done the same playbook. We'll print our money. Well, we got to pay our debt. We got to pay pensions, Social Security. Well, we're not smart enough to actually let the people hold their money. We got to hold it for them so we can steal it. And then we're going to force them in bonds. Well, not if I don't have any money in the bank, you're not. So do not trust the bank. You do not trust the government. We know they're fucking idiots run by the stupidest people in the world. Nobody smart would work at the government. So remember that. There was one on George Soros, which I'm going to rerun here.
Wait. Let's imagine that.
Let's go to about the 10-minute mark. Oh, wait. I'm going to start with this one. This is why there's a war going on right now. It's George Soros
synonymous with existential threat
versus Putin.
Vladimir Putin signed the order personally in November 2015, declaring Open Society Foundations an enemy of the Russian state and warning that any citizen caught working with Soros faced 6 years in prison.
This is George Soros.
The designation as an undesirable organization came with language that would have seemed hyperbolic if it weren't in an official government document. Soros represented a threat to the foundations of the constitutional system itself. Russia had fired the opening shot in what became a global governmental revolt against one billionaire family's influence, setting a precedent that would spread across continents as nations recognized a common threat. In Hungary, where Soros had spent millions promoting democracy after communism's fall, Viktor Orban transformed him into a national boogeyman through the most expensive propaganda campaign in the country's history. Billboards across Budapest displayed Soros's smiling face with ominous warnings about his plan, while the tagline, "Don't let Soros have the last laugh," screamed from every street corner and subway station. The government spent millions convincing Hungarians that this son of Budapest wanted to Muslimize Europe through forced migration, tapping into primal fears about cultural extinction that resonated across the continent. Parliament passed emergency legislation literally titled the Stop Soros Package, making it illegal for NGOs to assist migrants in ways that Soros-funded organizations had pioneered, essentially criminalizing humanitarian work. The pressure became so intense that open society foundations fled Budapest for Berlin in 2018, marking the extraordinary moment when an organization built to promote Hungarian democracy was effectively exiled from Hungary itself. Pakistan.
So we now understand why the war is still going on. Who do you think's fighting Russia? Soros. Soros won't let this war die. He's trying to get revenge for what Putin did. Now it's crystal clear why this war won't fucking end and who's behind it. Soros controls Trump as much as he controls the U.S. government. Biden gave him some medal for freedom or something. Guy's out of his fucking mind. He's been behind Obama and Hillary Clinton and all these fucking lunatics who have tried to run this country into the ground and are doing a good job. He's also running Trump. So when he wants to fight Russia because Russia attacked him, now you understand why there's a war and why it won't end. Because George Soros won't let it end. All right, let's go to the time that the day he broke Britain. So Britain's dollar was collapsing and he's breaking it, and he makes $1 billion shorting the British pound in lieu of what he's about to do with the US dollar, as he's breaking the US dollar with these tariffs, and he will short the dollar and make another. This time it won't be $1 billion, it'll be $1 trillion or something. So let's see how he does it, how he broke Britain. 1991.
September 16th, 1992 began with the Bank of
92.
England confident in its power. But by sunset, George Soros had humiliated the British Empire and pocketed $1 billion in what history would remember as Black Wednesday. The stage for this financial earthquake had been set months earlier when Soros began studying the pound sterling's precarious position within the European exchange rate mechanism, a system that required Britain to maintain its currency above 2.7 German marks, regardless of economic reality. With inflation raging and the economy weakening, this promise defied mathematical logic, yet British politicians clung to it with the stubborn pride that had once built an empire and now threatened to bankrupt one. Soros recognized what the entire British establishment refused to admit. Their currency was a dead man walking, propped up by nothing more than political vanity and taxpayer money that would soon run out. While other investors hesitated, Soros began building a position so massive that colleagues questioned his sanity, accumulating a $10 billion bet against sterling through leveraged funds that would either crown him king or destroy him completely. The Bank of England detected the mounting pressure as waves of selling crashed against the pound, responding with the only tools central bankers know: arrogance, denial, and other people's money thrown desperately at the problem. Interest rates rocketed from 10% to 12%, then to an unprecedented 15% in panicked hours, as officials tried to make holding pounds attractive enough to stem the bleeding. Behind the facade of calm, the bank hemorrhaged billions buying its own currency in a doomed attempt to maintain the fiction that political promises could overcome.
That sounds familiar. We're buying our own money. We're doomed. It's replaying massive inflation, higher interest rates are coming. So Trump wants to lower the interest rates. So when he pays the interest on the $37 trillion debt, it's not that much. It doesn't matter. You're fucked. So we're buying our own debt. We have massive inflation, much higher than 2%. It's got to, yeah, you can't measure it because inflation's money printing. So it went from 10 trillion to 20 trillion. That's inflation, not 2%, 3% crap. And it's certainly not year over year. So is this starting to sound like a theater near you? So we've got China turning off the money, but they're trying to do it to save themselves from bank runs, which won't happen. The money will still be worthless because nobody will want it. Their only out is to turn all their gold into money. So I don't know what the fuck they're waiting for, but they aren't doing that yet. That'll save China. That'll save Russia. That'll save BRICS. They'll all pull out the gold backed currency because all their currencies are worthless. So Soros is in England, sees what's happening. Massive inflation, sound familiar. Money printing, sound familiar. And raising interest rates, which will happen. We're buying our own debt. So we're trying to sell bonds. That's how we pay for our debt. We can't. So since we can't sell our bonds, we buy our own bonds. Nobody wants them. China, Japan, nobody's buying our own debt. So the Fed buys the bonds. And that's where the banks are going to fuck everybody because they're going to say, well, yeah, we got all these bonds. Y'all have to buy bonds. Who wants bonds? They're worthless. How will the government, which owes $37 trillion to bondholders, and you buy a bond for $10,000, how the hell are they going to pay you? You're in line after the $37 trillion. That line wraps around the earth 5 or 6 times, and you're going to wait for your 10 grand? Get the money out of the fucking bank now and safety deposit boxes, please.
Market mathematics. Norman Lamont, Britain's Chancellor, appeared on television throughout the day, promising to defend sterling at any cost, apparently unaware that Soros and other speculators were more than happy to name that price. The Quantum Fund led the assault, but soon every major trading desk in the world smelled blood in the water, joining what became a feeding frenzy against the wounded pound. Soros kept selling with the methodical precision of a surgeon, knowing that every basis point the pound dropped meant another $100 million in profit for his fund. By early evening, with reserves exhausted and credibility shattered, the British government faced a choice between complete economic collapse and humiliating surrender to the markets. At 7:30 that evening, an ashen-faced Lamont emerged from number 11 Downing Street to announce what the markets already knew. Britain would withdraw from the European exchange rate mechanism and allow the pound to find its own level. Sterling immediately crashed through the floor it had desperately defended all day, vindicating Soros's conviction that artificial currency pegs were nothing more than invitations to speculators with enough capital and courage. The final tally stunned even financial professionals. Soros had earned approximately $1 billion in a single day, while the British Treasury lost £3.4 billion of taxpayer money in their futile defense.
I finally ditched my Ring doorbell and switched to Safe Doorbell, and I honestly wish I had done this way sooner. Here's what...
Yeah, we don't
While the
care.
British Treasury lost £3.4 billion of taxpayer money in their futile defense. Newspapers around the world crowned him the man who broke the Bank of England, a title that captured both the audacity of his trade and the humiliation of a former superpower brought to its knees by a sick...
So again, inflation doesn't work. You cannot just print and print and print. The Romans, the French, the English, you cannot do that. The US, China, Russia, pick a country. You cannot print and print and print. It doesn't work. It can't work. It never has worked. It never will work because nobody will want your dollar because that's basically what happened with Britain. Nobody wanted the dollar. They were all selling it. So this is the problem. You have to understand you cannot just keep printing dollars to death. That's why I say to death, because you will die. The way you're printing money, you will die. You got rid of the petrodollar, and now it's not using the dollar, using their own currencies. All that dollars are out there. They got to come back. Well, you've already printed them. And you can force us to buy bonds. Good luck with that. And that's not going to help you. You have one out, and that is to buy as much gold and make the gold price $100,000 to get out of your debt and to make your money worth something. And if you don't do that, you're fucked. And you ain't doing it with stablecoin, and you're not doing it with Bitcoin. If people think Bitcoin's the way out or these stable coins, you're out of your mind. All right. Now, the worst thing that Soros did is buying justice.
Larry Krasner needed $1.7 million to become Philadelphia's district attorney, and George Soros wrote the check without hesitation, purchasing control over justice in America's sixth largest city with the casual ease of buying a yacht. The money represented over 30% of all spending in the 7-candidate primary, working out to roughly $33 per vote in Krasner's victory, a bargain for reshaping an entire city's justice system. What followed in Philadelphia became Soros's most catastrophic experiment, as murders exploded from 315 to 562 by 2021, nearly doubling under Krasner's watch. Gun crime convictions collapsed from 64% to just 35%, while the percentage of cases Krasner simply dismissed skyrocketed to 61%.
So can somebody explain to me that this guy is put into position to be a judge and to maintain law, but he doesn't? Can somebody explain that to me? I'm going to be a judge, but I won't follow the laws, and I won't follow the Constitution. And oh, crime's up. Well, that's a shame, and I'm not going to prosecute people. So even if Soros puts the guy in power, the guy just ignores every fucking thing he's supposed to do. Can somebody explain that to me? Why a judge would not do his job? I don't get it. And yet Soros seems to find these people.
Creating a paradise for violent criminals. The human cost crystallized in Hassan Elliott's case. Krasner released this repeat offender despite felony gun possession and cocaine dealing charges. And that same day, Elliott murdered a man before later executing Police Corporal James O'Connor. In Virginia, Soros spent over $2 million in 2019 installing 4 prosecutors, with Buta Biberaj receiving nearly $850,000 and Steve Descano getting $600,000. Descano's Fairfax County became a case study in prosecutorial sabotage, filing 49% fewer felony cases than his predecessor, while dismissals and drop charges surged 51%. Under Descano's leadership, all crime increased 15%, aggravated assault jumped 43%, and carjacking exploded 74%, transforming one of Virginia's safest counties into a criminal playground. Shoplifting surged 40% after Descano announced his office wouldn't prosecute thefts under $1,000, essentially legalizing stealing for anyone smart enough to keep receipts. Descano even downgraded abduction and burglary charges that could have imprisoned a defendant for 26 years. The freed man later allegedly killed 2 homeless men and wounded 3 others during a 9-day shooting spree. Meanwhile, in Loudoun County, Biberaj faced judicial sanctions when Judge James Plowman removed her entire office from multiple cases for deliberately misleading the court and the public. Her incompetence led to 2 murder suspects being released within weeks of each other due to basic procedural errors, with one case dismissed entirely while the other required a manhunt in Georgia. Chicago's Kim Foxx presided over 4,000 murders during her 6-year tenure, averaging 666 annually, 165 more per year than before she took office. The average felony approval rate under Foxx dropped from 83 to 73%, while rejection rates nearly doubled, meaning thousands fewer prosecutions annually in America's 3rd largest city. Baltimore's Marilyn Mosby achieved even worse results, with the murder rate climbing past 300 annually and hitting 348 in 2019, a rate of 59 per 100,000 residents. Only 53% of felony cases resulted in conviction under Mosby, compared to 67% before she took office.
I think we get the idea. Soros doesn't like crime. He likes criminals. He likes chaos. He's the Joker, basically. So he gets all these people elected who are bad. Now, they've subsequently been kicked out of office, most of these people. All right. That's what I wanted to show you, was Putin and that. All right. Now, here's one that's really bad. Henry Ford was with Hitler. So if you ever buy a car, please do not buy a Ford unless you're for Hitler. I don't know. All right.
Walsh has never been typical. We weren't typical when we started a college focused on one thing.
When you think of Ford cars, you probably first imagine reliable vehicles taking families on Sunday drives, assembly line workers commuting to better lives, or teenagers gaining their first taste of independence behind the wheel. Indeed, the Ford story we know is fundamentally optimistic, proof that American ingenuity can transform raw materials into prosperity, that good ideas properly executed can improve millions of lives. In school, we celebrated Henry Ford as the prophet of mass production, the visionary who understood that paying workers well created customers for his products, the businessman who thought globally before globalization existed. Yet there exists another Ford story, one so dark and thoroughly documented that its very existence seems impossible to reconcile with the cheerful corporate image. Indeed, this is a tale of medals and money, of factories and fascism, of profits extracted from human misery on an industrial scale. In today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we expose how America's most famous industrialist became one of history's most influential hate merchants, and why his company's darkest chapter remains carefully airbrushed from corporate memory. The offices of the Dearborn Independent hummed with activity in 1920, as Henry Ford transformed a sleepy Michigan newspaper into America's second largest weekly publication, with a circulation that would reach 700,000 by 1925. Ford had purchased this small-town paper in 1919, envisioning a platform where his views could reach the American public without media filters or editorial interference. What emerged instead was something far darker: the most sustained published attack on Jews in American history, a campaign of hatred that would run for 91 consecutive weeks and inspire the worst genocide humanity has ever witnessed. Every Saturday morning, Americans opened their newspapers to find Ford's latest diatribe, blaming Jews for an astonishing array of societal ills: World War I, jazz music, Hollywood's supposed moral decay, labor unrest, and international banking conspiracies that allegedly controlled governments. The distribution system was ingenious in its malevolence. Ford forced every dealership nationwide to distribute copies as a condition of selling his automobiles, creating a propaganda network that penetrated every American community from major cities to rural farmlands. His anti-Semitic articles were eventually compiled into The International Jew, the World's Foremost Problem, translated into German, Spanish, Portuguese, and 16 other languages, spreading Ford's poison globally. In Munich, a struggling Austrian artist named Adolf Hitler devoured Ford's writings with growing excitement, finding validation for his racial obsessions and a practical blueprint for transforming hatred into political power. Hitler's 1925 autobiography, Mein Kampf, would praise only one American by name, Henry Ford, whom he lauded as courageously standing against Jewish influence. Court documents revealed an extraordinary detail. Ford's portrait already hung in Hitler's modest Munich office as daily inspiration. Even more damning, Ford's German distributors were secretly funneling money to Hitler's Nazi party when it was still a fringe movement, struggling to pay for meeting halls and propaganda. The psychological roots of Ford's hatred traced back to defining childhood trauma. His beloved mother Mary died when he was 12, leaving him emotionally devastated and searching for simple explanations to life's cruel complexities. This untutored mind found disturbing comfort in conspiracy theories that blamed one group for all problems, rather than confronting modern life's messy realities. Two men weaponized Ford's prejudices: Ernest Liebold, his German-American secretary suspected of espionage, and the skilled editor who ghostwrote the anti-Semitic editorials. Liebold controlled access to Ford's mind like a malevolent gatekeeper, feeding him anti-Semitic literature while keeping out contradicting voices. Former employees provided damning testimony about this manipulation. Edwin Pipp, former Dearborn Independent editor, stated that the door to Ford's mind was always open to anything Liebold wanted to shove in it. Business manager Fred Black declared, "If I were to put the number one blame for Ford's anti-Semitism on anyone, I would put it on Liebold. Liebold even maintained a collection of 100 swastika pins shipped from Germany, distributing them to sympathetic employees and creating a network of Nazi sympathizers within Ford Motor Company. The assembly line genius, who had revolutionized manufacturing by breaking down complex processes into simple, repeatable steps, now applied those same methods to mass-producing hatred with terrifying efficiency. Hitler recognized in Ford a kindred spirit who uniquely combined industrial innovation with racial ideology, the perfect template for the mechanized horror he would soon unleash on Europe.
The local, perfectly charred, farm-fresh way.
For the mechanized horror he would soon unleash on Europe. Fritz Heiler, German vice consul in Detroit, carried a special package through the gleaming corridors of Ford Motor Company's Dearborn headquarters on the afternoon of July 30th, 1938, knowing he bore a gift that would forever link American industry to Nazi Germany. Inside the elegant presentation case, the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, a golden medallion suspended from a blood-red ribbon, accompanied by Adolf Hitler's personal congratulations for Henry Ford on the occasion of his 75th birthday. Hitler had established this Order of Merit specifically to honor foreign allies of the Nazi regime who had proven their value to the Third Reich's cause. Ford became the first American recipient of this dubious honor, joining an exclusive club that previously contained only Benito Mussolini, the founder of Italian fascism, who had destroyed Italian democracy. The medal ceremony unfolded not in shadowy secrecy, but as a public celebration, with photographers eagerly capturing every moment as Ford pinned the Nazi medal to his chest without hesitation or visible shame. Both American and German media extensively covered this extraordinary event, with the film Beobachter, Nazi Germany's official propaganda organ, devoting a full page to celebrating Ford as a true hero of the German people. This medal represented far more than diplomatic courtesy. It was the culmination of decades of mutual admiration between the American industrialist who had revolutionized manufacturing and the Austrian corporal who would revolutionize mass murder. Hitler had studied Ford's autobiography, My Life and Work, with religious devotion while imprisoned in Landsberg Castle, finding blueprints for both industrial efficiency and ideological warfare. The book had been smuggled into Hitler's cell by Rudolf Hess, and the future Führer spent hours annotating its pages, seeing parallels between Ford's assembly line methods and his vision for organizing society along racial lines. Nazi engineers were already dissecting Ford's production methods with scientific precision, most notably Ferdinand Porsche, who made pilgrimages to Ford's River Rouge plant in 1936 and again in 1937. Porsche's reconnaissance team actively recruited a dozen of Ford's best engineers, offering lucrative contracts to bring American manufacturing expertise directly to Nazi Germany. Hitler's obsession with creating a Volkswagen, literally a people's car, explicitly copied Ford's Model T concept, aiming to provide ordinary Germans with affordable automobiles, just as Ford had motorized America's middle class. Heinrich Himmler, the SS chief who would orchestrate the Holocaust's logistics, had written admiringly in 1924 that Ford was one of our most valuable, important, and witty fighters in the eternal struggle against Jewish influence. Ford's German subsidiary, Ford Werk in Cologne, operated under Robert Schmidt, who had earned the prestigious Nazi title of Wehrwirtschaftsführer, military economic leader, marking him as essential to war preparations. By 1939, as Europe teetered on catastrophe, Ford Germany contributed 35,000 marks to Hitler's lavish 50th birthday celebration. Court documents would later allege that Henry Ford himself sent annual birthday gifts of 50,000 marks directly to Hitler, though Ford Motor Company's lawyers would vigorously dispute these claims. Schmidt expertly positioned Ford Werke as indispensable to Nazi military planning, preparing the subsidiary for the profitable war that every informed observer could see approaching. The medal ceremony marked more than diplomatic recognition. It sealed an ideological partnership between American capitalism's most famous name and Nazi totalitarianism's most evil regime. 3 years later, Ford's gleaming Cologne factories would produce military trucks using concentration camp slaves, while the crematoriums burned day and night, but the golden medal would remain among Henry's treasured possessions.
Never pay for your internet again. Discover the free Wi-Fi router built with the same technology.
Elsa Iwanova was 16 years old when Nazi soldiers burst through her family's door in Belgium, beginning a journey that would lead her to the gates of Ford's Cologne factory and into a nightmare of industrial slavery. By 1943, she represented exactly half of Ford workers' workforce, not employees earning wages, but slaves, unpaid and slowly starving while assembling military trucks for the Wehrmacht that would carry German soldiers to kill Allied troops. The transformation of Ford's German subsidiary from a commercial enterprise into a Holocaust profiteer had been gradual but deliberate, with each moral compromise leading inexorably deeper into complicity with genocide. Over 10,000 men, women and children from Poland, Russia, Italy, Belgium and France would pass through Ford Works gates as forced laborers, their names erased and replaced with numbers in production reports. Documents discovered in Nazi archives listed Ford Motor Company among nearly 500 corporations with direct operational links to the Auschwitz death camp complex. While crematorium chimneys burned human beings 24 hours a day, Ford Work met ever-increasing production quotas. The statistics of Ford's contribution to the Nazi war machine are staggering. Ford Work manufactured approximately 1/3 of all German military trucks. Between 87,000 and 92,000 vehicles produced from September 1939 to March 1945. The Cologne subsidiary also produced the Maltier half-track personnel carrier, specifically designed for transporting Wehrmacht soldiers across the muddy, treacherous roads of the Eastern Front, where millions would die. A 1945 United States Army intelligence report would later brand Ford Werke an arsenal of Nazism, meticulously documenting how completely the American company's subsidiary had integrated into Hitler's machinery of conquest and extermination. Contrary to Ford Motor Company's post-war narrative of losing control, preserved corporate documents proved American Ford retained majority ownership of Ford Werke until May 1942, 3 years into the European War and 5 months after Pearl Harbor brought America into the conflict against Nazi Germany. Additional evidence revealed that Edsel Ford and other high-ranking executives maintained regular contact with their Cologne operations through neutral countries like Switzerland, fully aware of their subsidiaries' activities, but prioritizing profits over principles. Iwanova would never forget the bitter irony of seeing the familiar blue Ford oval logo on the factory gates, the same cheerful emblem that decorated family cars in American suburban driveways from Detroit to Denver. Survivors provided consistent testimony about conditions inside Ford Work. Starvation rations calculated to extract maximum labor before death, 12-hour shifts in dangerous conditions, and watching fellow slaves collapse from exhaustion only to be dragged away, never to be seen again. The spare parts division proved especially profitable, providing replacement components for German military vehicles damaged while fighting American soldiers in North Africa, Italy, and eventually France after D-Day. By war's end, Ford had joined 400 German enterprises, knowingly exploiting concentration camp labor, their American origins providing no immunity from the moral corruption that infected Nazi Germany. The profits from this devil's bargain flowed in both directions. Slave labor dramatically reduced production costs, while military contracts inflated revenues, enriching Detroit's coffers with what can only be described as blood money. Henry Ford's famous efficiency methods, originally designed to save precious seconds and reduce costs for consumers, now measured human lives in weeks before inevitable death or transfer to concentration camps. Jewish attorney Aaron Shapiro opened his morning newspaper in 1925 to find Henry Ford's Dearborn Independent accusing him of orchestrating an international conspiracy to control American agriculture through Jewish cooperatives. The libel was so outrageous and the accusations so specifically damaging to Shapiro's professional reputation that he filed $1 million lawsuit that would finally drag Ford's anti-Semitic empire into the harsh light of legal scrutiny. For 2 long years, Ford's team of high-priced lawyers stalled with endless procedural motions and technical objections, desperate to avoid a trial that would put their clients' pathological hatred under oath and on public record. When the case finally came to trial in a Detroit federal courthouse in 1927, it quickly transformed into a disaster for Ford, as witness after witness revealed the deliberate fabrication of anti-Semitic stories and the malicious invention of Jewish conspiracies. Ford's response to this mounting catastrophe shocked even his own attorneys. He secretly engineered a mistrial by having a detective approach juror Cora Hoffman with suspicious questions about the case's progress and outcome.
Step 1 was the fires. Step 2 was the riots. Step 3.
Hoffman with suspicious questions about the case's progress and outcome. The jury tampering was so blatantly obvious that it guaranteed a new trial would be ordered. But Ford had successfully bought himself precious time to execute a completely different escape route from accountability. Through carefully chosen intermediaries, Ford reached out to Louis Marshall, the distinguished president of the American Jewish Committee, proposing to end his entire anti-Semitic campaign in exchange for Shapiro dropping all charges. Marshall.
Well, I think we got the point, so I'm not going to run out and buy a Ford anytime soon, and if they call for a job, I'll tell them to go fuck themselves. All right. So that's Ford, that's Soros, that's China. Busy day. We did Mark McGuire on the weekend, so that's it. So let's go to baseball. Let's see what gold's at. Silver's at 39. Gold is still at 33.98. So it seemed to hit it in this. It won't go to 34, although we have seen it at 34 and silver at 39. So this is really where we need them to go. Now we need them to run. All right, let's look at the market, which is absolutely meaningless. Up $50. You got to be kidding. Now let's look at baseball. So we're checking new streaks first. Toronto on a 3-game. We're going to wait till they get to 4. And that's it. So the Tigers did win yesterday 2-1. So they did break their 6-game losing streak, unfortunately. So everything's 1-2. Milwaukee's on a 10, which we're aware of. And San Francisco's on a 5-game losing streak. Milwaukee's on a 10-game winning streak. And now we have Arizona on a 4-game winning streak. So those are our 4. So you see how they change, right? You got a bunch, 4-5. They get 4-5, and then they lose. And that's why it's very hard to get to 10. And that's why we want to jump on them at about 4, which is even hard because of the rotations. All right, so let's look at yesterday. We had a 6-6 game day. Some of the pitching was strange, I thought. So we have Toronto. They win 8-6 over the Niners, who are now on the 5-game losing streak. Baltimore beats Tampa 5-3. Tampa was on a big streak, but we didn't want to bet Peapot, and we didn't want to bet against Baltimore's pitchers, so we laid away, which was good. The White Sox against Pittsburgh. We had the White Sox overnight, and they played 9, so it was a push. 7-2 White Sox. We played Philly with Rangers Suarez, and California beats them 8-2, and I'm like, did I miss something there? This is the Angels, not the Dodgers. Rangers Suarez, so they only got 2 runs, so we lost Philly, but making the Rangers Suarez play. San Diego and Washington, we have San Diego under 9, and they win 8-1, so it's a push. We had 2 decent pitchers, Pivetta and Mackenzie Gore, but San Diego all of a sudden scored 8 runs. They're starting to score. Okay. We have the Yankees over 10.5. Marcus Stroman against, I don't know if it was Grant Holmes or not. I don't think it was. And Stroman starting to pitch better, gave up 2 runs with his 7 ERA. So Yankees win 4-2. So the Yankee bet and the Philly was fine because we had Rangers Suarez. The Yankee bet, probably a bad bet, obviously. We have KC Miami. Miami was on a 4-game winning streak. They lose 7-4. Chris Bubik finally pitches good. Jason Junk was terrible. 2 pitchers with ERAs under 3. I don't know where I'm getting 7-4 from. And Kansas City wins 7-4. Again, that was a streak one. Cincinnati was on I think they were on a 4-game win streak. They lose to the Mets 3-2. So again, Miami, Cincinnati, these are streaks. The next streak was Minnesota, and they did win 7-1. Or I don't even think they're on streak. We just bet Joe Ryan, so that was good. Arizona, we go over 9 with McCollus and I guess Kelly, and they played an 8, so we lose that one. Milwaukee on the 9-game winning streak does win 6-5 over the Dodgers. A lot of balls. We bet them against the Dodgers every game, and they won every game. So goody for that. Milwaukee, Seattle. Ric Flair, Brian Wu goes against a really good one for Houston. Both pitchers were 2-point ERAs, and Houston puts up 11 runs on Ric Flair. I just, well, not on him, but I was shocked on that one. And then Detroit, Texas. I don't play Texas, even though they're on a big win streak, and Detroit's on a big game losing streak because of Skubal. And I was right. I avoided that. I went under instead, and Detroit wins 2-1. So we end up going 6-6. And today is July 21st. And we will now look at today's, but let me see. Nikki, Ford found on road dead. Well, what can you say? He's helping Hitler and the Nazis. What is wrong with this guy? He's American. He's helping the Nazis against the Americans. Probably helped the Japs too, right? So, I have worked there before, but had I known this, I never would have worked there. I've never bought a Ford car. I buy Toyotas, but what a scumbag. Hitler's a good guy. Let's work and let's have slave labor. Well, why wouldn't you at least feed the people who are doing the work? Well, he died. Well, let's just bring in somebody else. What are you, nuts? Yeah, go work for Ford. You've got to be kidding. Thank you, Nikki. Ryan, how are you? Running about an hour behind from video start, watching video now. If I have $3,000, where do I go with it? Silver, get what gold I can. If you have $3,000, I would definitely buy a couple of quarter or half ounces, and it'll take you 3,500 to buy an ounce. So if you don't have 3,500, but you just have the 3,000, which I assume is what you're saying, I would, depending on how much gold you have, if you have 50, 100 ounces, stock up on the silver. if you don't have that much gold, I would recommend buying probably either a quarter or a half ounce and then some silver. The gold's really going to take off. Now, seeing what we saw with China, we really have to understand they're afraid of bank runs, that their dollars collapsed. Why they're stopping the citizens from using dollars. And if you notice, they're using digital, which means it's Back to the Future #2 with Biff using his thumbprint to take a cab ride. And he's got credits and it's not worth anything. And I think that's what you have here, what China's doing. Well, wait a minute. If they're worried about dollars, is their digital not tied to the dollar? It's certainly not tied to gold. What's it worth? People working, what do they get? Do they get credits now? Is it even money with the dollar? How do the grocery stores sell? There's a lot of questions I don't know that's going on in China now, but I would be very, very afraid. Will it come here? I don't know. There's too much money here. There's too many rich people. And even though, as much as we like to think we're not communist. So again, people want communism. You want socialism? Go look at China right now. And then let me know if you still want it. Because at least we have some sort of freedom here, which is really not a lot, but we do have money and we've got to make sure we always have money. We always need that. We just need one that's backed by gold, not this crap. But that's why if we have gold, the banks can't take our money, right? If we have money in the bank, they can put us into treasuries. But if we don't have money in the bank, what are they going to take from me? I got nothing in the bank. I got money in my safe. I got gold and silver in my safe. And I got a lot of baseball cards that can be turned into something. But I don't want to turn them into money if you're going to fuck my money up. So I'll hold my assets. If you got Rolexes, you got Van Goghs like I got over here. That's a Van Gogh poster, but it's not a painting. But let's say you actually have a Van Gogh or a Picasso. What's the value of it, and what do you do with it? Rolexes, Tom Brady cards. What do you do with your assets? What are they going to do? So the people with houses in China, what do they? How do you pay your bills with this new thing? So be very careful. I still think gold is a safe haven. Gold will be always worth something, even if it's black market. We'll be fine with gold or silver. All the central banks are buying gold. Even China's got the 70,000 tons. They didn't get rid of the gold. I don't know why they're fucking their citizens, but you got to be careful with it. So, Ryan, if I had $3,000, and most of my $3,000's already into gold, I would certainly. You're not going to get an ounce, so you can get a half ounce for about 1900, and maybe you get a quarter ounce, or maybe you buy a couple of quarter ounces at about $9.50 an ounce, a quarter, to have some gold, and then you go with silver. And you can see where it'll work. In a black market, you want to have the silver. Believe me, people will always take silver in a black market and gold. No problem with that. That's the whole point of the black market. Oh, you want to get steaks? Yeah. Oh, you got some silver. Sure, we'll take it. Because they're basically going off money. They're going to the black market money, which is gold and silver and Rolex and whatever else. Even the Bitcoin they're outlawing that, and you can't use Bitcoin to buy anything. You can only use this digital thing that I really didn't catch if it was backed by anything. But all of a sudden, just like that, the dollar was worthless. So if you own a mortgage on your house, I guess you don't own your house anymore. But you still own your house. They didn't take the house away. They just took the money away. How you're eating, I don't know in China. But I don't know if we'll see that. We need to be prepared for it. But I don't know how these idiots can do it. I think they'll do it. That's the point of the stable coin, which is Ponzi scheme. It's Bitcoin. It's digital. It's programmable. They're going to tell you you can't eat any more meat. You can't go to Chicago, and you can't fly here and there. That's what they're going to tell you. So you must be careful with that, the digital. And then we've got to figure out, and that's what I'm going to do, is figure out, well, we got the gold, we've got the Rolexes, we've got the manual cards. What do we do with them as money to survive? Because what we know for sure is the dollar's worthless. So so we've done plan A, we've gotten out of the dollar. Plan B, we got into what should hold is gold, silver, Rolexes, manual cards, things like that can always have value. They'll always be worth something. So we've got to see how they play it. They have to have money. You cannot have an economy in a country without a medium of exchange and money. People go work. People need to be able to buy what they want. They want to buy golf clubs or go golfing or go to Chinese food. They've got to be able to do that, or you won't have an economy anyway, and you'll be broke and starving, and death and everything else will follow if you don't allow freedom. What's the point? So I don't know that'll happen here, but China's communist, so that's what you get. So I hope that answered it, Ryan. If you have gold, let's say you got 50 ounces of gold, you might want to buy more silver. As we see, silver just hit 39 and gold's hitting 3,400 today. So it's coming. I got a feeling that gold's really worth about 5,000 right now, that there's a lot of central bank buying, and yet the price hasn't dictated it. Again, what China's doing is with money. It's with their yuan. It's nothing. If you have gold, you're safe, although I don't know how you use it to buy things. But I guess, like I said, if you go to a store, if you go to a grocery store with an ounce of silver, I don't think they're going to turn you away. They have to be in business too. They have to take something. So if it's digital, what is that though? And then it's programmable. It can go out. It's only good for 30 days. The whole thing sounds like some sick nightmare from Hitler. I mean, what are you talking about? So you just giving me this money, or is this, and it's not backed by anything? I can only use it certain places to buy tuna fish. I mean, what exactly are you talking about? So I hope we never have to find out, but we must be prepared for everything. All right, let's look at baseball. It's a Monday, so it's a pretty full schedule for a Monday. Okay. It's first game 6:40. We got San Diego at Miami. Miami 145 and 8th. Randy Vasquez 3 and 4th, a 380. Yuri Perez 3 and 2 with a 318. First, so we looked at the only streaks. We got Milwaukee on a 10-game winning streak, Frisco on a 5-game losing streak, and Arizona on a 4-game winning streak. So Milwaukee, Arizona, and the Niners. We're going to leave that alone. Oh, no, Miami. That's Frisco, Arizona, Milwaukee. Miami lost it. Okay, we're going to lay it away. Detroit goes to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 125-7. Flaherty, 5-9 with the 4.65 against Paul Scanes, 4-8 with the 201. Automatic, we're taking Pitt. It doesn't matter about this. There's two ways we're betting this. We're betting Pitt, we're betting pitchers, and then we're betting streaks. So we're doing two looks at how to pick baseball. This is going to be the first look. This is Flaherty, who stinks, 5-9 with the 4.65 against Scanes, 4-8 with the 201. I imagine Detroit will get shut out by Scanes because Detroit hasn't hit. I mean, they got 2 runs yesterday against nobody, against the bullpen. Detroit's not hitting. Scanes 4-8 with the 201. Well, we know he's super. The question is, do we bet it under? But Flaherty's so bad. I have a feeling Pitt's going to hit them. I think Pitt scored a lot one of these days this weekend. So we'll go Pitt, Scanes, automatic, 3 units. Baltimore at Cleveland. Cleveland 135, 8.5. Tommy Sugano, 7-5. Used to be a 2 ERAs, now a 4.44 ERA against Tanner Bibby. So I'm just ignoring this. Those are the games that get you into trouble, the 4 ERA pitchers. Boston at Philly. Ooh, a good series. Philly 220 and 8. Walker Buehler, who's terrible, against Zach Wheeler. So we're going to take Philly here. And we'll go 2 units. We like Zach Wheeler. We don't like Buehler. So we're looking for Milwaukee, Arizona, and whoever San Francisco plays. All right. Cincinnati, Washington. Brady Singer 7-7 with the 4.32 against Jake Irvin, 7-5 with the 4.88. We just ignore it unless there's a streak, which I don't see one. Cincinnati got busted and Washington's loss got busted. The Yanks in Toronto. It's just when the Yanks were scoring, they decided not to score yesterday. There's something about Sunday. They rest their players. They just don't hit. I don't know what it is. Yankees 118, 8.5. Carlos Rodon 10-6 with the 3.08. I don't like. Kevin Gausman 6-7. I don't like. 8.5 seems like an over. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Let's try over. Let's try it one more time. Yankees over. Only because it's 8.5, but only for 2 units. California plays the Mets. The Mets 198.5. Tyler Anderson's 2-6 with the 4.34 against Cody Senga, 7-3 with the 1.39. We're gonna have to take the Jets, Jets for 2 units. The 49ers and Atlanta. We are going against the 49ers on a 5-game losing streak. We got Hayden Birdsong 4-3 with the 4.11 against Bryce Elder 3-6 with the 5.65, who I don't love. We'll take Atlanta for 2 units because the Niners are on a 5-game losing streak. Here I will. Elder pitched 4 or 5 innings. That's the new baseball that I hate, where he's gonna give up 5 runs. Well, he's only gonna pitch 3 innings. The White Sox at Tampa. Tampa 220-9. Sean Burke 4-8. Dane Baez 8-5, both with 4 ERAs. So I am going to leave it alone. Although I do think there'll be runs scored. Oakland against Texas. We got Texas 125, 8.5. Jacob Lopez 3-5 with a 4.20. Jack Leiter 5-6 with the 4.37. Not interested. Texas, I don't know if they score. They don't. And Lopez there. St. Louis at Colorado. St. Louis 150-12. Michael McGreevy 1-1 with a 4.22. Austin Comer 0-3 with the 5.65. I'm not going to go over 12 in a baseball game. We've got Arizona. Do we get to Arizona? Oh, here's Arizona now. Houston, Arizona on a 4-game win streak. Colton Gordon 3-2 with the 4.67 for Houston. Zach Gallen 7-10 with the 5.40. I can't do. I got to go over Arizona, over 9, 2 units. They're playing well, so they're winning, but I'm not. With the guy with the 5.40 ERA, I'm not on. Milwaukee, Seattle. Milwaukee is on the 10-game win streak, so we are betting them. Seattle minus 127. Brandon Woodruff 1-0 at the 2.61. George Kirby 4-4 at the 4.50. Good enough to me. I'll take Milwaukee 2 units. It's just when you're on a win streak, just everything you're hitting, you're pitching. This guy, who knows, Woodruff, probably a bullpenner. It doesn't matter. They'll just come in and they'll hit. In their last game, Minnesota at the Dodgers. Now we know the Dodgers lost 3 in a row to Milwaukee. They had just lost 7 in a row, won a game, and now they've lost 3 in a row to Milwaukee. Gets Minnesota. That was the 1959 World Series. You had Harmon Killebrew against Sandy Koufax, and they were playing it at the UCLA where the Rose Bowl is at now. And they had a fence, like it was fenced in with like a regular chain link fence, and it looked ridiculous. So anyway, little history. Dodgers 170-9. We got David Fiesta 3-3 with the 5.25 against Shotani 0-0 with the 1-0. He's only pitching 30, 40 pitches. Maybe he gets 2 innings in. So you can't really count on him. He might pitch the first 2 innings, maybe, and then now you're going to the more of the bullpen. Minnesota can play pretty well. I'm tempted to take Minnesota. I think the odds are why are the Dodgers 170 here? Now, part of it is David Fiesta's got a 5.25 ERA. The other part of it is Shotani, but Shotani's only going to pitch 2 innings. He goes 3. You still got 9 innings in the game. All right. So that's it. Let's review. We got Pitt with Scanes, 3 units. Philly, 2 units. Milwaukee, 10-game winning streak, 2 units. Arizona on a winning streak. We're just going to go over 9. We don't like their pitcher. We got the Yankees over 8.5. We got the Mets 2 and Atlanta. And one of them's going against I think San Francisco's playing Atlanta. So we're going against Frisco on the 5-game losing streak with Atlanta. Otherwise, like it's Scanes and Philadelphia's got a good pitcher going. Philly always has those good pitchers going. I mean, the Rangers Suarez, and I think Zach Wheeler tonight. Milwaukee's just, they're on a 10-game win streak. So we'll say thank you very much. We've nailed them. We've had them 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row. 6 days in a row. So we've had them the last 6 days. So if you lose a day, you get out like now. The Tigers had lost. I wanted to bet against the Tigers today, actually. So the Tigers had lost 6 straight, and then they win. Now, normally you get off of them. I'm only on it because Scanes is pitching. Anybody else, I would just leave it alone as, okay, they broke their streak. But as bad as they're hitting and as bad as their bullpen is, and you've got probably one of the worst pitchers on the Tigers, this Joe Flaherty guy who's terrible. Even Pitt can get 3 or 4 runs, and that's all they need for Scanes. Hopefully it's not an under, but it could be because Scanes should shut out the Tigers while he's out there because they're not hitting anything. So that's how you look at it. So that is today's baseball. Again, the streaks ebb and flow. And on Sunday, we lost 3 or 4 streaks yesterday. Something about Sunday that kills these streaks. I don't know what it is. Ryan, I think you're okay then. This is why you have to get out of money, because look what they're doing. They blindside you. There was no warning in China that they were doing this. They woke up and they couldn't use their ATMs. So you have that. Basically, you have the government not telling them why or what's going on. They don't want the money out. So the Chinese government basically has no idea about economics. First, they print their dollar to death, and now they're saying, well, we don't want bank runs. And all the billionaires left the country if they could. They didn't, maybe they didn't let them. They're fleeing to Singapore and Dubai and even Canada. I don't think I'd flee to. That's broke. The problem is most countries are broke because they're all running the same playbook. So that's why we buy the gold and silver. And that's really, Ryan, it really doesn't matter if you buy gold or silver. You're going to be fine with it because the dollar will go out and people will take either or. The difference is you'll buy a house with the gold, with an ounce of gold, but with silver, you'll be buying your food and things like that. So again, everything needs to be repriced. So in China, they got to reprice everything, or they're just leaving the prices alone. So all your yuan is now worth digital yuan. Is that what's happening? That doesn't make sense because it's still money, right? So I'm not sure what they're doing in China. Were they backing it by is it just an even switch, but you got to use digital? It doesn't make sense. Again, digital is not the answer. Do not get into stablecoin or crypto. They're not worth it. They're not backed by anything. If it's not back, here's what back means. If I sell you this bottle and there's no whiskey in it, it's not backed by anything. It's just a bottle. The backing is the whiskey. You're buying the whiskey. You're buying the bottle with whiskey in it. But if it's empty, like this glass, and you're buying a glass, that's cinnamon, by the way. If you're buying the glass, but there's nothing in it, you're not buying anything. Stable coins are not good, right? You don't want to be in stable coins. There was one thing, I think it was alligator. Yeah, it might be I'll have to look at it. I don't want to waste time trying to find it. But there was a thing where they're talking about it, and you got to realize that the crypto is it's just not backed by anything. If it's not backed by anything, forget about it. So the first thing I heard about Bitcoin, I said, "What's it backed by? Nothing." Well, then don't buy it. So I think what you're going to see is they're going to steal the Bitcoin. They're going to do what China did and say you can't use it anymore. Just like they shut out the banks, right? So here you are, you got 100 grand in the bank. They say, nope, can't use it anymore. And they're going to shut out crypto. They're going to say you can't use it because they got your blockchain. They know they got everything about you. They shut it off. And that's what they're going to do because they'll need money because these idiots have run out of money because not because they can't print it, but it's worthless. So they'll start, oh, really? I mean, I heard how stupid these guys are. It's really, that's the problem. It's why is Scott Simpson the Treasury Secretary? Based on what? He doesn't have a degree in economics. The fuck is he doing? Well, he worked on Wall Street with Soros. Oh, well, that makes him worth something because we know all the guys on Wall Street are honest. Madoff and Wolf on Wall Street and Attack on Wall Street guys. I was watching Attack on Wall Street yesterday, and it's the same thing. They screw the customer, right? That's their thing. We don't care about the customer. We only care about the firm. You want to trust these guys? Yeah, good luck. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm getting a little tired, 2 hours in. So I hope you enjoy it, watch it, realize what's happening to China is a possibility everywhere. I don't know if it'll happen because there it's communist. And here there's more money here. There's more the Warren Buffets and the Gates where they're more in charge. So how can they shut out dollars if they have dollars? They're not going to shut themselves out. Where in China, it's run by the communists, right? She's a communist. He runs it. It's more of a democracy, whatever it is here, but Trump's not going to shoot himself. Trump has a billion. They all have billions of dollars. They're not going to say, "Hey, let's take the dollar out." Well, they're not going to do it to themselves. So I don't think that'll happen. I think they'll move you into crypto, but I'm just not sure what they're going to do there. Anyway, that's about it. If I do want to do my college football, my Grady Sports Almanac here. I've been looking at the MAC and the Sun Belt, so I'll probably do that. I'll have a bite to eat. Maybe I'll do that, but probably I'll swim, and I'll do it after swim. Anyway, that's what's going on. So have a good day. Please be very careful. The less money in the bank, the better. Even mine's in my safe, so I'm fine. I need money. I go to my safe. I got the gold, I got the silver, I got the cards, I got the assets. So the key is the more assets you have that are not called money, that can either be paintings, watches, baseball cards, gold and silver. More gold and silver because that's real money. So the more assets you trade your money in, if I take this dollar and I buy gold or I buy silver, but I don't want to be in this. The more you can get away from that, the better you are. Because like in China, I don't know. Maybe they pack gold and silver in their suitcases, the billionaires who left. They go to Dubai, but it's just like anything else. It's an asset. People, there'll be countries that you can go to and countries you can't go to. We're not going to China, but maybe Singapore. We'll have to ask Pat next time he's on. Hong Kong, I think those are safer areas. China's, again, it's communist, so we've got to be very careful with that. But they got all the gold, so I don't know what they're fucking doing, why they're not going with the gold. All right. Have a good day. Nikki, nice to talk to you. Ryan, yeah, buy gold and so buy as much as you can for $3,000. It's a good idea, and get out of the cash, get out of the bank, just leave a little bit in there and get out of be careful with the stock market. It's all going to crash anyway. Maybe you're in defense contractors. I don't know. I don't want to do anything with those. They'll all screw you. So you're better off gold and silver than trusting the stock market. All right. I guess that's it. Have a nice day. www.teaserking.com. Good luck on baseball. Football, really nothing new. This whole Prime Junior contract and everything. What is Cleveland doing? The guy's not even good. He brought in somebody doing this competition. What does that got to do with anything? He might have an accurate. Nobody doubts that he can throw the ball. We saw him at Colorado. He just can't win. He gets sacked all the time. He throws a lot of interceptions. Probably can't read a defense. And Colorado wasn't all that. If Colorado would have beat Texas and Alabama and won the title, okay, he's a winner. He's Joe Burrow, but he didn't do that. And he had the Heisman Trophy winner receiver. He still didn't do it. So I think that's just a big circus. All right. www.teacherking.com. If you need me, you get my email there. Otherwise, I will be on probably later. I want to get this football out, and then I want to redo the Big Ten. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Be safe. Careful with your money. You see what's going on in China. It's probably coming to a theater near you, but maybe because we're so different here from, we're not communist, although I don't know what you call what we are. Just be careful. All right. Have a good day, everybody. I'll talk to you later.